And we're live!
Mary.
Wednesday Wisdom!
Okay, we are live and you are on hashtag Wednesday Wisdom. This is a great episode. This is probably my most exciting episode because, you know why?
Why?
We are talking about dealing with, of all people, the people that we have to deal with sometimes. And those are the people that are considered
Difficult. Like us.
difficult people. Well, I don't think you're difficult.
No, I'm a pleasure.
Right. You are a pleasure. I am Chris Quinn.
Marianne means Dufresne.
And it is Wednesday. It's Tuesday. I was confused all day yesterday thinking about it.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about it. Mm-hmm. And we've got 3 strategies for you on dealing with difficult people. Mm-hmm. And first of all, let's talk about what you consider those different difficult personalities.
Yeah. There are people that are just aggressive, just flat out in your face and dominant and want to win and everything's an argument. And there are people that are passive and that we don't necessarily want to steamroll, but may be hard to get motivated at different times. And then there are people that are just darn passive aggressive. And they appear to be passive, but when we're working with them, we realize there's some subterfuge, which is a fun word.
Yeah.
And maybe some backstabbing or talking behind our backs that goes on that keeps our workflow from being productive.
Right.
So how do we deal with those people?
Yeah, so you got to know your audience because there's always that perception of. I also think a lot of times people are perceived as if they're quiet, they're difficult to work with, or that because of that reason of being quiet, that they can be perceived as hard to work with,
or they're unengaged, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's often a perception, and that person may be completely engaged, but either A, doesn't feel the need to interject because they are quietly confident, or they're lacking a little bit in confidence and have a lot to say, but don't know how to say it or aren't encouraged to say it.
So I guess our first strategy that when we talk about is that first thing is that you've got to know your audience.
You do.
You've got to know your audience, and you've got to figure out what that first strategy is. Is that it's obviously, and everyone is that communication.
Sure.
You've got to be able to communicate with who they are and what it is that you want to. What those issues are, because what might be perceived as difficult on one side of the coin could not be conceived as difficult on the other side of the coin.
Right. And so knowing your audience, knowing how people operate, the person that you're dealing with, and being thoughtful about that. But first and foremost, really being honest. Learning to deal with difficult people and learning to motivate people and gain cooperation is not about manipulation. It's about being honest with people and about being sincere and knowing where you're headed. So what's the purpose? Why are we trying to win cooperation? What are we headed toward? And getting people to align themselves with organizational goals or personal goals, depending on the circumstance that you're in.
Right. Okay. So that's, if you will, that's our first strategy, if you will. Okay. So I think if we broke it down into kind of our second strategy, I think it's really about being compassionate or empathy, if you will.
Empathy is so key, and that goes along with the honesty, really seeing where people are coming from. So what is their perspective? So let's say we're in an organization and we have a specific goal that we need to reach by the end of the quarter, and we've got to have cooperation from the whole team to get to this point. We need to know how people's individual goals line up with that in order to motivate them appropriately to join us in reaching that objective. So that's how we get the buy-in and the cooperation from people who may be perceived as more difficult, is knowing what motivates them, knowing what drives them.
Yeah.
And that takes empathy.
Yeah.
And building trust, having conversations with them about what their goals are, and being able to, first off, build your departmental goals and your organizational goals based on what some people's individual goals are as well.
Everyone's going to be different. You're not going to, in a tribe, you're going to have lots of different people.
Tribe.
that come from lots of different backgrounds that have that we're all dealing with different issues, right? Especially this time of year with stress, the year coming to an end, and we have to be compassionate and we have to show empathy to each and every one. And you know, a lot of times I know through the years I've had employees or people on crews that we've said they're difficult. Well, maybe it's not they're difficult. It's they still do. They're still doing their job, right?
Right, getting the job done.
Right.
Okay, so what were some characteristics that made them show up as difficult? Just so we can really be specific on that.
I think it's that one thing is that standoffish,
Okay.
quiet. They're not approachable.
Okay.
And that they're not a part of the team. They want to fly their own flag.
Kind of an S&M kind of mentality.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but they're still getting their job done, right?
Sure.
I think that's the biggest thing going on today is the fact that, A, do you get your job done?
Right.
You know, do I have to be this? We want everyone to be a team, part of a team builder, thinking that that's going to help us get where we need, but versus do I want someone that shows up, gets their job done, they're on time.
Right.
Versus that warm and fuzzy.
Well, the warm and fuzzy often equates to engagement.
Right.
And what we see and when we're building long-term relationships over time is that even those people who seem standoffish, who seem more guarded, or who don't appear that they want relationship, they really do. It's just someone that it takes a while to build trust with them, and we have to be even more purposeful about how we do it. And as leaders, they're watching every move that we make. They're watching every conversation we have and how we're treating other team members. And if we're not authentic, it shines through. So having authenticity and a sense of care for people is number one in being able to build that trust, and it won't be overnight, especially with someone who is guarded or perceived to be more difficult.
Okay. You're watching #Wednesday Wisdom.
On Tuesday, because I have high impact presentations in Dallas tomorrow.
Right on. And we are talking about strategies, 3 strategies for dealing with difficult people. We've talked about our first strategy of really knowing your audience.
Know the audience, know who you're dealing with and what motivates them.
2, about being empathetic.
Be empathetic. And 3...
2, being empathetic. See, you threw me there for a
Sorry,
second.
it jumped. Be empathetic. And 3
is really establishing the boundaries.
Okay, so this might be when we're working with somebody that building the trust is more difficult than we expected, or this is maybe somebody who's not trustworthy. And this does happen. It doesn't happen often in our world, but when we encounter someone on our team, in our organization, in our volunteer work, who isn't worth our trust, how do we protect ourselves while still establishing that we're open to building trust should this person decide that they want to? Have you encountered that before, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think trust is one of those things that it's hard to build, and it's trust and honesty, right? And it's more of deliverability.
Yeah.
So when deliverables, when somebody says they're going to deliver something and then they don't follow through on delivering, and then I lose that trust in their ability to deliver.
Sure.
So I think that's been my experience.
Yeah. Or they're openly hostile.
Right.
I've experienced that a couple of times in work environments, but more often in community work. And you know, trying to have a conversation and be honest about it is so important. Making sure not to talk badly about that person and spread gossip, which is so tempting to do, but not allowing ourselves to do that.
Right.
Thinking about appealing to the nobler motives. So what does this person want to accomplish? In trying to keep a basic level of engagement based on what we have to accomplish together while also protecting ourselves. And what does protecting ourselves look like?
Right.
What does that mean for you?
Well, I think it means a lot of different things, because I think regardless if you're, because you could be a creative, you could be an artistic, you could be temperamental. I mean, you can be labeled all these different things. Could be to be labeled challenging, right?
Sure.
So I think it falls into all those different categories, because difficult, but he's creative. He's difficult, but he's challenging. I mean, you associate all these words that kind of fall a part of it. So
Yeah.
I think when you deal with those challenges, that you just have to figure out that everyone comes from a different background, and you have to figure out which hat to wear with each one of those. Which one of those people? That most of them, a lot of times, are, I don't want to say right brainers.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're setting out to be difficult. I don't know if anyone goes out and says,
I don't think anybody does.
right.
People,
Maybe they're not happy.
Right.
Yeah.
And we often say that, oh, that is such an unhappy person
Right.
to
He's
be
just not
acting
happy.
that
Yeah.
way.
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Right.
But people do what they believe is right in their own minds, and that may or may not be accurate, but that's their perception. And thinking about how we keep ourselves healthy and how we draw a healthy boundary, for me at times has meant letting that person know honestly that this is not a relationship built on trust, and so I'm not going to spend time on it anymore. That's a hard conversation to have. In the workplace, that's usually not an option. We have to keep moving forward. So it's not disparaging that person publicly, but it's also not talking about personal things, not being vulnerable, maintaining a safe distance, but being supportive when it comes to the work that we're doing. But if we can't trust that person to get work done on a project that we're doing together, we need to share with that person, I'm in a difficult situation here because I can't trust that you are going to deliver on this on time. And we also need to share that with the supervisor, because that's behavior that needs to be part of a growth plan, a development plan for that person, that they're not reliable. But we need to have, as part of caring leaders, the objective that this person will be able to grow through this. Not a gotcha, we're going to catch you on this performance plan to get you fired. We're going to help you grow and go into that with the right intent.
Thank you for tuning in to this week of hashtag Wednesday Wisdom.
Wednesday Wisdom. So know your audience, be empathetic, and set healthy boundaries.
Great.
Yeah.
Have a great week.
Y'all have a wonderful week. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you next week.